Dr. Victor Fries is a cryogenist and former employee of GothCorp that put his wife Nora in suspended animation when it was discovered that she had fallen ill with an incurable degenerative disease. The corporation funding Fries's research and Nora's life support, GothCorp, terminated the project, causing an accident that altered Fries's body into a cold-blooded being that must be kept at sub-zero temperatures to survive. Mr. Fries would spend the rest of his life seeking revenge on GothCorp and a cure for his beloved wife. While we don't know where Mr. Fries was during the events of Arkham Origins on Christmas Eve, we do know that around that time was when Victor had put his wife under cryostasis, buying him time to find a cure for his wife's ailment, Huntington's chorea. Ferris Boyle had approached Fries to make a deal, where Fries would create cryogenic technology for GothCorp in exchange for resources to find a cure for Nora. However, Boyle began stalling on their agreement, which led Fries to take matters into his own hands. When Boyle had heard about what Fries was doing, he and two guards attacked Fries in his lab and abducted Nora. In the struggle, Boyle knocked over a cryo cannon, which froze one of the guards and hit a large container of cryogenic chemicals. The sudden pressure change caused the container to explode, releasing a plume of chemicals that doused Victor and the remaining guard. Boyle unfortunately managed to escape the plume and fled the lab, while leaving the others for dead. The guard and Fries had struggled, but upon leaving the super-cooled lab, the guard suffered a heat stroke and died at the doorway. Victor, after witnessing the guard's death, realized that the chemicals that he was drenched in had changed his body in a way that he could have never planned for. Victor constructed a makeshift cryosuit out of the prototype parts that he found around the lab. Only a couple weeks later, on New Year's Eve, Mr. Fries would attack Wayne Manor and demand Ferris Boyle be brought to him. Batman tries to keep Ferris safe, but Ferris is frozen and abducted by Fries. Batman later discovers that Fries had made a deal with Penguin and equipped his henchmen with cryonic weaponry. The deal goes sour, leading to a firefight between Penguin, his henchmen, and Fries. Batman battles with Mr. Fries, finding ways to hurt him and disable his suit's propellant tank. Their fight is interrupted by an alert about Nora's failing pod, leading to Fries freezing the room and Batman attacking him from below to take him out. Ferris takes advantage of the situation and attempts to kill Fries and gloats about Nora's impending death, saying he would watch Nora die first and then him. However, Batman breaks free and administers the coolant and saves Nora's life. He tells Fries that although he could not give him peace, he can give him justice. Mr. Fries isn't directly seen in Arkham Asylum, but we can only imagine the extreme lengths that Victor would go through in that time frame to find a cure for his wife. Prior to the events of Arkham City, Mr. Fries was fearmongered and manipulated by Professor Hugo Strange. Hugo Strange, by the way, is a notorious enemy of Batman, a man with genius-level intellect and who was trained in psychiatry, chemistry, and biology. Strange would tell Victor that he could give him a fully stocked laboratory where he could continue his research. And after moving into the old GCPD building, Strange would kidnap Fries and force him to attend these grueling sessions where Strange would constantly ask Victor to retell the story of how he became the way that he is now, making him relive that horrible day where his life was changed forever. Strange would also tell Victor that most of his problems would have been solved if he had just done things the right way in a certain order. Eventually, Hugo told Victor that he gave Nora to the Joker, a fact which would horrify Victor. Fries would later be blackmailed by the Joker into finding a cure for his Titan illness. Fries would later realize that finding the cure wasn't the problem, but finding a way to keep it from degrading too quickly was. Around this time was when Penguin had captured Fries and put him on display in his museum under a heat lamp. When Batman saves Fries, he is reluctant to help Batman find a cure for the Titan illness, of which he is also afflicted by at this time. Batman, having no time to spare, rips the coolant keeping Mr. Fries alive away from him. Victor, realizing that Batman is more serious than he usually is, agrees to help him as long as he gets revenge on Penguin. After Batman obtains Ra's al Ghul's blood, Mr. Freeze is able to fully create the cure for Titan. Batman quickly finds Nora in Warehouse 5B in the Falcone shipping yard, and after telling Mr. Freeze about Nora's location, Batman and the player can find Victor reunited with his wife so he can continue his mission in finding a cure for Nora. The next time we see Mr. Freeze, he threatens Batman and blames him for letting the Arkham Knight's militia kidnap Nora. Batman tells Freeze to shoot him if he trusts the militia, which in turn makes Mr. Freeze stand down and beg Batman to find and free his wife. While attempting to repair the generator, Freeze was distracted by a call from Batman alerting him that Nora was awake. Freeze left his station in a panic, allowing the generator to reach critical mass and causing the freezing of the Gotham Bay area and snowfall across the city. The militia launched a massive drone assault on the ship, and Freeze had to make the choice between saving Nora and his cure or sacrificing himself and Nora to wipe out the drone strike. Mr. Freeze chose to detonate the generator at Nora's request, saving them both but losing his cure and work in the process. After losing his life's work and the siege being over, Victor asked Nora to let him freeze her again to continue his search for a cure. Nora declines, expressing her desire to spend her remaining days with Victor rather than being frozen and witnessing his descent into villainy and madness. Victor realizes the truth in Nora's words and agrees, deciding to cherish their limited time together instead. After that, Nora and Victor leave Gotham to spend their final days together. Victor's love for his wife was so great that he would do literally anything and everything to find a cure for her illness. He committed company espionage, robbery, murder, extortion, and even became a career criminal. He did not want to lose her. Largely because of Victor feeling he has absolutely nothing left to lose in his quest to save Nora, he was initially immune to Batman's terror-based approach at dealing with crime, explicitly telling him that he had lost everything and that his threats had absolutely no effect on him. Ironically, Victor's ruthlessness in attempting to cure Nora by placing her in cryostasis created a gap between the two of them. As she was conscious of her surroundings while being frozen, she knew what her husband had become to save her. In Arkham Knight, she even begs Victor to let her live with whatever days she had left with him instead of an eternity being separated in cryostasis. Victor lost most of his aggressive personality in Arkham Knight. However, needless to say, his ruthless protection over Nora remained intact as he was able to freeze the militia soldiers that attacked his ship without so much as a second thought. He was also prepared to attack Batman to deliver him to the militia in exchange for his wife. As Victor did not trust them, he instead forms an alliance with Batman to rescue Nora. In the end, Victor was able to do one last heroic deed, put aside his endless hunt, and detonate Nora's cryochamber, which was able to destroy the malicious tanks. Thank you for watching this video.